Picture this: a defense attorney who screws up so badly his client might never see the light of day again. Imagine the weight of such a mistake, the gravity of a single misstep that could alter the course of someone's life forever. This isn't just a story about a legal error, it's a tale of human frailty, ethical dilemmas, and the profound consequences of professional negligence. We're diving into the Juan Cabrera case and Chris Kessel's role. This case is a labyrinth of legal missteps, missed opportunities, and ethical quandaries that have left a man's future hanging in the balance. It's a stark reminder of the immense responsibility that rests on the shoulders of those who practice law. Chris Kessel was Juan Cabrera's defense attorney. He was the person Juan trusted to navigate the treacherous waters of the legal system, to fight for his freedom, and to ensure that justice was served. But instead of being the beacon of hope Juan desperately needed, Kessel became a symbol of failure. But instead of defending Juan, Kessel might have sealed his fate. The courtroom, a place where truth and justice are supposed to prevail, became a stage for Kessel's blunders. Each mistake, each oversight, was a nail in the coffin of Juan's hopes for a fair trial. Let's break down Kessel's colossal blunders. First, he didn't investigate an alternative suspect, Julio Palomares. This wasn't just a minor oversight, it was a glaring omission that could have changed the entire trajectory of the case. Julio Palomares was a name that surfaced early in the investigation, a name that carried with it a cloud of suspicion. Despite evidence pointing to Julio as the possible shooter, Kessel dropped the ball. There were witness statements, pieces of circumstantial evidence, and even rumors that pointed towards Julio. Yet, Kessel chose to ignore these leads, focusing instead on a narrow, flawed narrative that ultimately did more harm than good. Despite evidence pointing to Julio as the possible shooter, Kessel dropped the ball. Imagine the frustration of knowing that there was someone else who could have been responsible. Someone who might have been the real perpetrator, and yet your own attorney didn't bother to pursue that angle. Then there were the inconsistent witness testimonies. Witnesses are the backbone of any case. Their testimonies can make or break the defense. In Juan's case, the witnesses were anything but reliable. Their stories were riddled with inconsistencies, contradictions, and gaps that should have been thoroughly examined. Key witnesses, like Megan Hanrahan and Jakara Hunter, couldn't decide who held the gun. Their testimonies were a jumble of uncertainty, each one casting doubt on the other. This was a golden opportunity for Kessel to dismantle the prosecution's case, to sow seeds of doubt in the minds of the jurors. Kessel, he barely cross-examined them. Instead of seizing the moment, he let it slip through his fingers. His lack of action was not just a missed opportunity. It was a dereliction of duty. The courtroom, which should have been a battleground for truth, became a place of passive acceptance. And the gang affiliation angle? This was another critical aspect of the case that Kessel mishandled. The prosecution painted Juan as a gang member, a dangerous individual with a violent past. This portrayal was not just damaging, it was devastating. The prosecution painted Juan as a gang member, and Kessel didn't object. He didn't challenge the narrative, didn't present evidence to the contrary, didn't fight back. This wasn't just lazy, it was damaging. It allowed the prosecution to create a narrative that was hard to shake, a narrative that painted Juan in the worst possible light. This wasn't just lazy, it was damaging. It was a failure to protect his client, a failure to uphold the principles of justice. It was a failure that had real, tangible consequences for Juan Cabrera. Finally, Chris Sanchez, a jailhouse informant, could have helped Juan's case. Informants can be a double-edged sword, but in this case, Sanchez had information that could have been crucial. He had insights, details, and potentially exculpatory evidence that could have turned the tide in Juan's favor. But Kessel didn't even look into it. He didn't interview Sanchez, didn't investigate his claims, didn't even consider the possibility that this informant could be the key to Juan's freedom. It was another missed opportunity, another failure in a long list of failures. Now here's the kicker. Kessel is currently an assistant attorney general in Michigan. The irony is almost too much to bear. The same man who failed Juan so spectacularly is now in a position of power, a position where he could influence the very system that he once failed to navigate. The same office that's prosecuting Juan's appeals. This is not just a conflict of interest, it's a glaring example of the systemic issues that plague our legal system. It's a situation that raises serious ethical questions. Questions about fairness, justice, and the integrity of the legal process. Conflict of interest much? The very idea that Kessel could be involved in the prosecution of Juan's appeals is mind-boggling. It's a situation that should never have been allowed to happen, a situation that undermines the very foundation of our justice system. Chris Kessel's failures are a stark reminder of how critical a competent defense is. They highlight the importance of diligence, thoroughness, and ethical conduct in the practice of law. They remind us that the stakes are incredibly high, that the consequences of failure are profound and far-reaching. The system isn't just flawed, it's broken. It's a system that allows for these kinds of failures, a system that doesn't always hold those in power accountable. It's a system that needs reform, that needs to be held to a higher standard. And Juan Cabrera is paying the price. He's the one who is suffering the consequences of Kessel's failures, the one who is trapped in a system that has failed him at every turn. His story is a tragic reminder of the human cost of legal negligence, a cost that is measured in years lost, opportunities missed, and lives forever altered.